Welcome to the channel. Today's story is called The Wishing Park Bench. In a town surrounded by busy streets and towering buildings, there was a quiet, leafy park where children came to play and dreamers came to sit quietly. And in the very center of the park sat an old, sturdy wooden bench beneath the spreading branches of a giant oak tree. Now this was no ordinary bench. Oh no, for one day each year, when the first buds appeared on the oak tree and the song thrushes returned to sing in its branches, the bench would come alive and grant a wish to anyone who sat upon it and made a wish from the heart. But it had been many years since anyone had discovered the bench's magic, and it grew fainter with each passing season. One spring morning, a little girl named Lily skipped through the park on her way home from school. She was a sweet, gentle child with a curious heart and an inventive imagination. But lately she'd been feeling rather lonely. You see, Lily's parents had moved away and now she lived alone with her grumpy cat, Whiskers, in a big, drafty house at the end of the street. There were cobwebs in every corner, dust on every shelf, and silence in every room except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. As Lily walked through the park, pushing back a curtain of her long, dark hair, she noticed a small wooden plaque on the bench which read, "Let mich I'm Arsch." Startled, Lily hopped onto the bench to get a closer look. That is when she saw a tiny hole in the wood just big enough for a coin to fit in. Then suddenly, as if by magic, the hole began to glow with a brilliant, golden light. Startled, Lily jumped off the bench and watched in amazement as the light grew brighter and brighter until, whoosh, it vanished. Then resting on the bench as if it had been placed there especially for her, was a shiny, silver coin. Cautiously, Lily picked up the coin and turned it over in her hands. On one side, it looked like a normal British 50-pence piece, but on the other, it bore the image of a smiling sun with a flower in its rays. Wondering what it meant, Lily slipped the coin into her pocket and hurried home. All the way home, she could hear the faint, tinkling sound of bells and feel the warm glow of happiness deep inside her. That night after dinner, while Whiskers dozed in the armchair, Lily went up to her room and opened her diary. As she wrote down everything that had happened that day, she heard a small scratching sound at the window. Startled, she ran to the window and pushed aside the heavy curtains to find a tiny, shimmering fairy sitting on her windowsill. "Greetings, Lily," said the fairy. "I am here because you have been chosen to receive a gift from the Wishing Park bench." Before Lily could say a word, the fairy waved her magic wand and poof. The room was filled with beautiful flowers and bushes which quickly grew into a magnificent garden filled with birdsong and buzzing bees. Then, waving her wand once more, the fairy transformed Lily's old, drab house into a cozy cottage with ivy climbing up its walls and smoke curling from its chimney. Finally, with another wave of her wand, the fairy brought Lily's parents back from wherever they'd gone and they rushed into the cottage, overjoyed to be reunited with their darling daughter. "But how?" gasped Lily, still clutching her diary. "How did you do all of this? And why?" The fairy smiled gently and replied, "Each year, the Wishing Park bench chooses someone special to receive a gift. And this year, you were chosen because you have such a kind, generous heart. As for how I did it, well, That's between me and the bench." Then taking Lily's hand, the fairy continued, "Your wish has also granted a wish to someone else in our town. And so the cycle of giving will continue until next year when the bench chooses someone new." Was that? The fairy waved her magic wand and disappeared. And Lily rushed outside to see what her wish had done for someone else. Down at the end of the street lived a woman named Martha, who had a small, crooked cottage with weeds growing in her window boxes, and a Doberman named Fang, who spent his days staring out the front window. But today, Martha wasn't sitting in her usual armchair by the window. No, instead, she was out in her garden pulling weeds and dead flowers from her flower beds and planting new seeds and bulbs. And as she worked, she hummed a cheerful tune, something she hadn't done in years. Peeking around the corner, Lily smiled, realizing that her wish had brought Martha great joy. But then she remembered the fairy's words about the cycle of giving, and so was a skip in her step and a song in her heart. Lily continued on her way, eager to see who the bench would choose next. In a small cottage on the other side of town lived a man named Thomas. He was a kind, gentle soul who spent his days carving wooden toys in his workshop and feeding the birds in his garden. But lately he'd been feeling quite ill and spending most of his time in bed. One day, as Thomas lay looking out the window, he saw a group of children playing in the street below. But they weren't playing a normal game. No, instead they were shouting and screaming and throwing stones. Startled, Thomas got out of bed and went to the window. That is when he saw the beautiful garden at the end of the street and realized it was Lily's parents' new garden. And he watched as Lily skipped down the street, spreading joy and happiness wherever she went. Suddenly, Thomas felt a warm glow spread through his chest, and he thought, how wonderful it would be to bring some joy to these children. So gathering all his strength, he got into his rocking chair and slowly began to rock. Later that day, Lily was walking past Thomas's house when she heard a faint tapping sound coming from inside. Curious, she stopped to listen. And that's when she heard a kind, gentle voice calling out, come in, my dears. Whoever is passing by is welcome to come in and rest." Overjoyed to see that her wish had restored Thomas's health, Lily hurried inside and introduced herself. "Hello, Thomas," she said. "I'm the new girl at the end of the street." "Oh, yes, of course," replied Thomas, smiling. "I knew your parents when they were young. They were always kind, generous souls, just like you, I see." And with that, Thomas stood up and presented Lily with a beautiful wooden doll carved in the shape of a squirrel. "Here you go, my dear," he said. "You can have the first pick of my new collection." Overjoyed, Lily thanked Thomas and promised to come back soon. Then waving goodbye, she skipped out of the house and down the street. Every day after school, Lily visited Thomas and they became the best of friends. He gave her wooden toys and she helped him with his housework. And together they planned to make Thomas's garden the most beautiful in the whole town. Meanwhile, Martha found that she couldn't stop smiling. Not only was she spending her days gardening and making her house a home, but she also started volunteering at the local animal shelter, taking dogs for walks and cleaning out their kennels. It was hard work, but it filled her with a sense of purpose and satisfaction she hadn't felt in years. And so as the seasons passed and the park bench waited patiently for its next wish, the people of the town began to notice that it was a much kinder, happier place thanks to Lily's selfless wish. One day not long after, Lily was sitting on the park bench writing in her diary when she heard a gentle voice behind her. "Well, hello there." Startled, Lily spun around to find a beautiful woman with flowing blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes standing before her. "Who are you?" asked Lily. "Are you a fairy?" "I am the spirit of the wishing park bench," replied the woman, "and I am here to tell you that you have done a wonderful thing by making an unselfish wish." "Oh, it wasn't me," said Lily modestly. "It was a bench." "True, it was a bench," said the spirit, smiling. "But it was your wish that mattered most. Sometimes the most magical wishes are the ones we make for others." Then taking Lily's hand, the spirit continued, "Now that you understand the magic of giving, it is time for you to receive your gift." And with a wave of her magic wand, poof, the spirit transformed the old, sturdy wooden bench into a magnificent stone fountain with water cascading over moss-covered rocks and Lily at its center. Overjoyed, Lily thanked the spirit and promised to keep the magic of the wishing park bench alive in her heart forever. And so Lily lived happily ever after in a cottage in the park with her parents, Thomas, and his dog, Fang, and all the children in the town who came to play. Whenever they needed a friend, they only had to visit the park and whisper a wish to the fountain. The end.